Well, I would check because you might be an Emmy winner because I believe they won
Wow.
an Emmy for that particular intro. So I would check, man, because you can consider yourself an Emmy winner.
Wow. I don't want it to get to my head though, right?
Kim, talk to me about. We talked about the kids and the response that they have. What about the teacher when you introduce drones into their classroom or into their curriculum? What's the response of the teachers?
One of the biggest challenges with getting drones into education is everybody's afraid of them because the lawyers start coming out and saying risk, 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 risk. And that's one of the reasons I like to start with the little tellos because they're very harmless. My 4-year-old granddaughter flies it and crashes it into the wall. So, but risk is one of the things, but the teachers get just as excited as the students when they start thinking about everything that they can do with it. It's usually administration that is, we can't do this. But because they see the excitement in their students' eyes. And I don't know a single teacher that doesn't want to see their students excited about learning. So when they see they can bring this in and it increases engagement, it also increases, for the teachers listening, depth of knowledge increases dramatically of the content that they're doing, but also just because they're engaged and when they're emotional about something, it increases their retention. So if they're learning, they're doing math with drones because they've calculated things, they're going to retain that better because it was an emotional experience for them. Learning physics, learning engineering, anything that involves something that's going to get them excited and involved it just increases their retention and increases their understanding. It takes them higher on Bloom's taxonomy. So once we can get the teachers over that initial fear, that's the biggest thing is worrying about that risk. After that's done, they're ready to go. I was very fortunate that I did some training with some teachers from the Phoenix Union High School District that were trying to get drones in. And so we did a whole Saturday where I basically prepped them for their 107, but we talked about safety and how do you manage it with the students and, keeping students away. And what do you keep, if you've only got one drone, what do you do with the other students to keep them engaged? And that's one of the other challenges is when one person's flying, you don't want everybody standing there over their controllers watching it. So what do you do with the other students? So you make one person a visual observer. Somebody else is, crowd control. They keep other people away. Another student is, keeping track of what they're supposed to be doing. So if you have them working in, teams of 4 or 5, you give every student a job, and now they feel that they're part of the experience, even if they're not flying it. And once the teachers get an understanding of this is how you do some classroom management around it, and they are safe, and there's ways to operate them safely, they can't wait to get their hands on them and get them into the hands of the students. Sometimes it's hard to get it out of the teacher's hands because they want to fly them.
That's good. Pete, how can people, I know you guys have clubs and teams, where can people learn more about getting involved or maybe trying to race a little bit? What are some of the groups out there that we should be looking at?
That's a good question, Chris. So for our weekly whoop race, we do have a Facebook group. It's called AZRecWhoops. Or you can go to our RektDrones.com website to get some more information on that. As far as the bigger 5-inch and up, it's called Rippin' AZ, and they're also a Facebook group on here in Arizona. Then we have a group of guys down in Tucson called 520 Whoop, and Arizona Night Tracks, of course, they're based on the west side, but they handle all of the track design and pretty much 5-inch racing.
And I didn't ask you, Pete,
places.
Can you give me some specs on the little whooping one as far as like their speed and things like that, and also on the bigger ones on the 5 and 7 inches?
Yeah, so these little guys, you're only going to be going maybe, I want to say maybe 35, 40 miles an hour at the most on this. We race in a very tight track here at the shop, maybe about 600 square feet, if that. So it's more about maneuverability than speed on these little guys.
I mean, you
Range,
say only, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you say only 30 or 40, but that's like the top speed on most of the DJI drone that most of us fly.
right? Yeah. So for us, it's more for practice and for cruising around. The 5-inch guys, they can go up to, I think the top speed is like 160 miles an hour. But obviously you're not going that fast. So, you know, most of the time when you're racing, you're going through such technical things that you might be going maybe 50 to 70. I don't really know. But there are some videos that we can send you where you could take a look at that. I think the name of the game now is more just being smooth and being able to get through the track in a, as far as a fast time, but not a reckless time, things like that.
And I know you mentioned a couple of licenses as far as what people needed for the drone that you meant, the race that you mentioned, but any license that I would need to have in order to fly a drone that can go up to those kind of speeds?
Well, yes. So with that, you would need, your AMA, you would need your FAA registration. As far as if you decide you want to be a recreational hobbyist, or if you're going to, go for that commercial, I don't think that there's any stipulation, as long as you're following the FAA rules, visual observer, line of sight, things like that. It's not unless you want to get your videos and get compensated for it, then I believe you would have to go commercial and get your 107.
Yeah, I mean, the typical FAA limitation is 100 miles per hour. So we wouldn't be able to fly at the top speed that you mentioned. But again, I think most people, even with a drone that can fly at that speed, because you're maneuvering, you're actually not clocking it at that kind of speed. So
yeah, I get a lot of kids that come in here. That's one of the first questions: how fast does it go, and how far can I? And I'm like, well, you need to probably slow your roll a little bit, and take it around the park a couple times first.
Yeah, that's good. Kim, I know you mentioned Verizon earlier. You're part of a group with them. What are some of the things that excite you looking at the future as we're wrapping up here? What are some of the things that you're looking at in the future, the technology, some of the things coming out?
Oh, a lot of it's super secret squirrel stuff.
That's what we want to hear.
See, I can't expose the super secret squirrel stuff. But I am just in general excited to see more and more schools are starting to implement drones. The state of Arkansas has actually integrated a drone program into their career and technical education and is a state approved program. Seeing teachers looking at drones beyond just the piloting part, looking at it for engineering, trying to figure out how they can utilize it with math, physics, really in the sciences. Even some of the STEM or the STEAM teachers, so your artistic teachers are starting to do it, looking at it from the cinematography perspective. And then even one of the things I've only seen one group do it, and I'm hoping to see more, is putting the lights on the drones and then filming it, setting your camera in a long exposure and exactly. And really doing some things with that in photography classes and art classes. So what I'm looking for is, I want every student to leave high school with their 107. I want every student to have exposure to drones. For me, it's actually really important because drones kind of level the playing field with girls. Less than 6% of professional airline pilots and 6% professional drone pilots are women. But drones open the door for girls to realize that they're capable of aviation, and really starting to get them interested in things, not just being a pilot, but being an aerospace engineer, anything around, you know, the more we can get girls interested in STEM and in science, and in especially with anything with aerospace, excites me. So I guess that's really what I'm looking forward to, is seeing more kids getting their hands on drone in the classroom, and not just, oh, this is fun, let's fly it, or, oh, this is used for coding, but seeing it implemented across content areas, seeing cross-curricular activities with it, seeing teachers getting creative, and letting the students really express themselves and do things with the drones that allow them to experience real world, you know, solving real world problems, or learning things that will help them to get jobs going forwards. Like even with Pete mentioned, if you're playing with the tiny whoops, you've got to learn soldering and electronics and some computer stuff. Those are all skills that are transferable to just about any field, and you can learn it all with drones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they don't teach those in school anymore, so that's
right.
It's a good way to do it. Yeah. Pete, over to you to kind of wrap things up. Where can people get more information about you guys? Any things that excite you looking at the future of this industry?
Chris, you know, kind of what Kim was talking about, that cross-platforming, or, you know, so one of the things that I'm kind of getting into now is more of the cinematic side of the drones, and how I can combine the two, the FPV and the cinematic, and I guess my changing from racing to more of a smooth cinematic feel. I think that is helping a lot, because I see the future, like you were talking about, a lot of people from the cinematic side is moving over our way, and a lot of guys from our side are moving your way. So I think there's going to be a fine meeting in the middle, and so many interesting things to come. Also, with what Kim was saying with the STEM plus C programs, we actually have a friend of ours, Paul Kopp. He's the founder of STEM plus C here in Arizona, and he's doing a lot of cool things, teaching kids. They build rockets. They're doing drones. They do the wings, and he's actually even building a flight school for drone to private pilots. So they just got a Cessna 152 over there at Falcon Field, and I think the future is bright for these kids, and for drones in general. So
yeah, awesome, and great segue. As we wrap up, I really want to encourage people to tune in on Saturday to watch that FPV category, because we're going to see some of the best cinematographers in the world using this new technology in a way that's just absolutely baffling. So, so thank you guys so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate your time. And we look forward to having you again next year, hopefully in the real live setting versus the virtual environment. But thanks you guys, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Chris.